evening, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Vault. I am your host, Kyle Head, and joining me here to start out the show tonight is Z, and we want to talk about some of the games from last week that we gave out. It is Week 1 NFL time. We're going to talk a little bit about that today as well and get into some fantasy picks. But Z, let's talk about some of the games that happened last week and some of the winners and, unfortunately, losers that we gave out.
Yeah, one of the things I want to kind of comment on is that we gave out a few losers on the show last week, and it's going to happen. We're going to lose some games. Everybody loses games. Unfortunately, the ones we gave out on the show didn't do so well, but some of the ones we gave out on the Discord did. So make sure you get over to the Sports Vault on Discord and make sure that you're following there too, because we're going to release a lot more plays over there, and we're just not going to talk through them quite as much. But if you've got questions, go ahead and ask those. You know, a couple of things I took away from the weekend. The LSU-Florida State game was a great watch. You know, that game was really, really close until the end. Florida State ended up winning by 21. But if you dive into the box score, each of those teams had very similar yardage in that game and first downs. So I think that game was probably closer than the final score would indicate. Unfortunately, my biggest play of the week was on LSU, minus 2.5, and that didn't come in. So that's a loser. But we had some other good things. Some other things I took away was obviously the TCU-Colorado game. Boy, Colorado looked good offensively, but I think that might be a lot to do with TCU's defense. You know, I think they just gave up another touchdown to Georgia from that championship game last week before the game in Colorado. They just have given up a ton of points in their last two games. Sonny Dykes has always been an offensive coach, and so I'm going to be watching them going forward to see how bad their defense really is and maybe take advantage of that. Colorado gets an interesting matchup this week with Nebraska. Now, Nebraska played Thursday night, and their offense did not look good. And so a lot of people would say, well, Colorado's going to blow them out. And we've seen a 10-point line move. It opened up -7 for Nebraska, and we're all the way up to -3.5 for Colorado, depending on where you look. I'm actually going to jump in on the under of this game this week. I got it in under 58.5. I think Nebraska's defense looked really, really good. I watched every play, and I watch all their games every year. And so I watched them, and they were very much improved. TCU's defense is not good, and so I think Colorado will really struggle to move the ball against Nebraska. And we know Nebraska can't move the ball very well either, even though Colorado's defense is probably not great either. I think this game comes under. I'm not going to get involved in the side right now. Maybe I'll release something on that later in the week, but I really, really like what's going on there. We saw Texas Tech go into Wyoming last week, and they lost outright as a 14-point favorite. Wyoming is a tough place to play, and they're a very good defensive team. And I think Texas Tech was looking forward to the Oregon game this week. I'll be really interested to watch Texas Tech and Oregon this week as they come up together. And we'll see if that, Texas Tech team can be better than what they have been in the past. A lot of people have been saying that Tech has a chance to be really good this year. I'm not sure I'm sold on that yet, but this game against Oregon, who, by the way, put up 81 points last week, will give us a lot of information on that. I'm going to give out a couple of other plays this week on the air here, but go over to the Discord. I've already posted all these plays over there. I tried to take advantage of some early lines. I played Notre Dame -7. That's my biggest play of the week so far. I just don't think NC State's very good. Their defense doesn't seem to be as good as it has been in the past. Brennan Armstrong, their quarterback, is not very good. He used to play at Virginia, and he can run the ball, but he can't throw it. Notre Dame, I know they haven't played the toughest competition yet, but their defense is solid as usual, and Sam Hartman is a good college quarterback. He transforms that Notre Dame team into a defense and run the ball team, into a really good defense and a really good offensive team. I think they have a chance to make the college football playoff this year. I think they come into NC State and really take it to them. I think they win this game by 2 touchdowns or more. So I laid the 7. I would go ahead and lay the 7.5 now if you can't get the 7. A couple of other games I really like is I like the Baylor game to go under here. Baylor is the kind of team that has a good defense. They gave up a lot of points last week, but it was against a team that is a new style offense. TJ Finley came in for Texas State and was throwing the ball all over the field. Now they get Utah. Utah is going to struggle offensively until they get Cam Rising back. Baylor is much better at stopping the run than they are the pass. Utah is going to try to run the ball, which again, with the new rules, That's going to help us get a better line on the under, because every time they get a first down, unless it's the inside the last 2 minutes of the half or the game, the clock's going to keep running. So I think Utah will probably win this game on the road, but I think that they won't score a ton of points in this game, and I think Utah's defense is for real. Baylor has their quarterback. He's going to be out this week. He got an injury at the end of last week, so they're going to really have some trouble offensively here. I think this game comes in way under. Unfortunately, I got 51.5, and I posted in the Discord, but it is all the way down to 47. So I would still play it under 47. In fact, I would play this all the way down to 45. That's the game. I would go down to 45. Another game that I want to talk about for this week, and this will be my last one I give out for the week on the air, is the Auburn-California game over the total. Auburn is way better offensively this year. They look really, really good. I know they didn't play great competition last week, but California does not have a good defense. The team they played last week is not good offensively, and California just blitzed them. They just went all out and just beat them to a pulp. I think California has a good offense. I think they'll be able to move the ball a little bit in this game, and I think Auburn is going to put up a bunch of points in this game. I thought we got really lucky to get over 54 on this one, so I'm going to play Auburn over 54. And then when we turn to the NFL, we have our first NFL games of the year coming up, the regular season games. Really exciting time. We've got tomorrow night, we've got the Lions. I already gave out the over of that game. Travis Kelce being injured might change that a little bit, but I'm sticking with my over. I might look for a live opportunity to come back in on the under if I think things aren't going the way that I thought they would, if Kelce doesn't play, but he's still questionable, so he could play. I gave out many weeks ago, I gave out the Falcons under 42.5. It's now at 39.5. I would still play that, but it's a little bit closer. Let me give you a couple of games with the actual current lines so you can jump in. One thing that I really like this week is a 6 or a 6.5 point teaser, depending on what you like. I like to tease this week the Packers up. So I'm going to get the Packers up to 7 or 7.5. And I'm going to tease the Commanders down to right around -0.5 or -1. I do not think the Commanders lose this football game to the Cardinals. The Cardinals are in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. They've traded away a lot of players. Joshua Dobbs is starting at quarterback. I just don't think they have a lot going for them in this game, and I don't think they need to win this game. I'm telling you right now, Sam Howell is going to have an excellent season. He's going to have an excellent fantasy season too. I think you can draft him late in your drafts, and he might play a big role for you this year. Also, grab Jahan Dotson. He looks like the real deal, and I think he's going to be very good. So I'm teasing there. I'm teasing the Packers to the Commanders. I went ahead and did the 6.5 point teaser to get 7.5 and -0.5, which means the Commanders just have to win the game. And then I'll give you one more play here. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns at home. For me, week 1 division games, home teams that are small dogs under 3, to me, that is a great angle to play. Cleveland is got a lot going on for them. Deshaun Watson, most people don't like him. The Bengals have been to the AFC Championship 2 years in a row, went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but Joe Burrow has not played a snap in the preseason. Teams that don't have their quarterback play in the preseason really struggle in week 1. This is a division game on the road. I don't know what Burrow's situation is. I have a funny feeling it might be contract related, where this is a contract situation where he's trying to get an extension and he hasn't gotten it yet. Maybe he's playing up the injury a little bit more. I don't know. But I think there's going to be a little bit of a miscommunication there early on. I will take the Browns plus 2.5. Think they win the game outright at home. And that will be the extra game that I give you for this week. But go over to the Discord. All of my plays will be posted there under Z Biggity's picks. And you can also get John's picks under JA picks over there as well.
All right, thanks, Z, and a great job giving us some of those picks for today. And we're going to have to let Z go, but we're going to bring in John and Michael and talk a little bit more about last week and then some games for this week as well. And Z, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, Kyle. Have a good night.
All right, now we're going to welcome in John and Michael. And Z talked about it a little bit, guys, but one of the games last week that everybody's talking about, and that was Colorado TCU. Michael, you were there. and we'll get your thoughts on it here in a second. But John, just kind of what were your thoughts and takeaways from that Colorado TCU game?
Well, first of all, I got a buddy named Jimmy. Let's just call him Jimmy Jammer because that's what he does. He just sends it right in. Jimmy lost 60,000 on the TCU money line. He was against the Colorado hype train. I sent him a walker as a gift because the guy can't even stand up after getting railroaded like that. But I couldn't believe that kid, Hunter. Holy shit. 140 plays or something. Unbelievable. Just standing around here twiddling his thumb. This guy's running a play, receiver and D-back. Just unreal. One of, if not the best player I've ever seen.
Yeah, Michael, you were there live, and you got a nice perspective of that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was by far, I think the best game of the weekend. But, the things that Travis Hunter could do, the ways on both sides of the ball is just ridiculous. I went in probably with the same speculation that some people did, like didn't know Sanders would be as a quarterback at that. Didn't know if Hunter could play both sides of the ball at that level. I think Hunter, they said it was close to 100 snaps on both sides of the ball, which is amazing for a college football player. And, Sanders, 500 yards. I have to give credit to the offensive coordinator, was the head coach at Kent State. Like, what they did early by letting him kind of deke and dunk, they took some shots when they had a chance. And they even dropped a couple of balls that he put right in the breadbasket over the top that were deep shots that I didn't know if he could make. And now, I'm on the hype train for Colorado and Coach Prime.
Drinking the Kool-Aid. That's what you've been doing.
Absolutely.
Drinking the Kool-Aid.
Speaking of Kool-Aid, fun fact, the Alabama Crimson Tide have a D-back who will be drafted in the first round next year, named Kool-Aid.
I did know that. I've seen that. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what we call that? We call that a Scrabble name. His parents or whomever was at the hospital, they stuck their hand in the Scrabble bag. They saw what came out, and bang, that's how he got his name. Put record.
So I'm curious on this because I'm not the big betting guy, and John, you are more that guy. But how does Colorado, their futures look like? Can you get some? Because I think they're going to be very thin because of all the guys they brought in. But late in the season, have those lines just changed dramatically because of what happened?
Oh yeah, yep. So the look ahead line for this week was Nebraska -6.5. It's Colorado 3.5. So you got a 10-point move just to give you in 1 week. And for the record, I'm not totally sold that Colorado's going to win this game. This is like the worst type of game for them, right? Nebraska's going to play slow, get in a huddle every play. They're going to power run. They have a running quarterback. Hopefully their coaches, after they donated a nice big bet to us with the Minnesota Golden Gophers, realize don't throw the ball, okay? Don't throw it. When you have a touchdown lead with 6 minutes to go, how about I write 24 power? How's that sound? Instead, Gibbs was chucking it at interception. So somebody send that kid a Christmas card. Thank your donation to the Sports Vault Fund. And I think Nebraska is going to run the ball down their throat. And I want to see what Colorado does with a change in pace.
We're going to have to find Matt Rule's email so he can send him this video for Andy Reid was talking about how he was, some janitor was giving him some plays sometimes. So this is going to be that Andy Reid type, like, hey, Coach Rule, here's John giving you some pointers for this week against Prime.
This is also my thought too. Why? And TCU kept doing it, so hopefully Nebraska doesn't do it. But why do you keep throwing to the same side that Travis Hunter is on?
As Hunter, mind blow. What you want to know why? Because these guys are nitwits. They're too smart for their own good. They always want to try to outsmart somebody instead of just sticking to what works. They could have ran for 300 yards. Nebraska could run for 300 yards if they want. That Colorado couldn't tackle. I could get 11 high school kids over here, and they couldn't tackle them. So why do you want to get in a shootout with this team? I don't know. I digress. And now I'm worked up. I don't want to talk about these idiots anymore. These bad coaching it irks me like you can't believe.
So
because I'm on this shit. I'm counting on these people to do the right thing. I mean, come on, it's hard enough to win a bet, and now I got these guys with this play calling, and oh my god.
Hey, one thing I didn't realize until after the game, Dion's other son was starting on the defensive side. I had no idea.
Yeah, he had 10 tackles.
Yeah, I know, but they hardly ever.
He led them in tackles
in the broadcast.
You want to know, outside of Hunter, who was otherworldly performance, do you know they had 4 guys each with 100 yards receiving? That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the horn guy, he was really good, and they even a couple of those guys even had drops.
Yeah, the touch. I don't know what happened, but they dropped a. It would have been a really nice catch. It was a diving catch, but it would hit him right in the hands. So that was in the end zone for a miss. Other than that game, it was a really strange week. There were some really odd performances. Frank Harris for Texas San Antonio, he's been there. This is his 11th year, I think. He gets free coffee at McDonald's for being a senior citizen before games. He looked like he never played college football before. It was really weird. That game stayed way under the total. You're going to see teams like Army and the garbage that they played. I think Lafayette. No, not Lafayette. A really bad team. You know, these games, you have to start betting these unders now, because teams like this that huddle, that can't throw, the clock is going to move and move and move and move. And there's just no way these games go over. It's going to need 2-3 overtimes. So you really got to keep an eye on that. I was unbelievably impressed with Florida State, and kudos to Brian Kelly. He should be on a 25-year prison sentence for all the money he's stolen from the universities for tricking them into thinking he's a good coach. This guy's never won a big game in his life. He never will. He never makes halftime adjustments. And I think Mike Norvell might have the Seminoles back. They've got some really impressive talent on the offensive side of the ball. They took a bunch of kids out of the Florida State pen to run around on defense. So, I think they're going to be tough in the ACC. Clemson's, really, really bad. Dabo's going to be working with Brother Zebarai in St. John, Kansas as a preacher pretty soon, because, boy, this guy can't get a team ready anymore. Unless he's got a laundry list of All-Americans, he's in trouble. So those are my main takeaways.
I bet Z would like that if Dabo came and did some preaching at his church. I'd drive up there and watch.
Well, I think he would like it more because he would give Dabo Sundays, and Z would take the high mass on Saturday night so he could be in the box firing away on Sunday.
So let's switch to this week, because this week 1 of the NFL, and there are a lot of good games. The injuries are starting to roll out. The injury list, practices have been closed here for a couple of weeks now. After the end of the preseason, last weekend there wasn't any NFL going on, and so there was some huge injury news this week. Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee. He's officially questionable for the game. JSN from the Hawks, he's going to play, looking like, after broke his hand just a couple weeks ago. Cooper Kupp is officially out for week 1 and possibly going on the IR. So just a lot of big injuries. And you guys, let's just kind of talk about how those are going to impact some of the fantasy, because those are first-round guys, some of those, with Kupp and Kelce.
Yeah, I think that, you get any injury like that, and especially these guys that are first-round guys, are going to make a difference in, how, especially in like ESPN leagues, how you're playing your team and what you're doing, because now everybody's waiting to see what Kelce does, because, there's multiple reports that he's playing, but then you get several reports that saying that it's a long season. They don't know. So that's going to be a game time decision. So, and in a lot of leagues, some people don't draft backup tight ends. So if you took Kelsey in the first round, it's going to affect what you're going to do this week in playing your team. You better have invested in one of those rookie tight ends that we've been saying are going to be, especially in the ESPN leagues, plug and play guys.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just one of those that, especially these early week games, it's really hard to decide. You're going to have to wait till up to kickoff probably to find out with Kelsey. But the Cooper Cup news, and John you can talk a little bit more about this, but the Seahawks defense, I think, is going to be very much improved. Their run defense was really bad last year. They brought back Bobby Wagner, who's great with the run and also great defending in the secondary too, the tight ends. And so the Rams, I just don't see much that they are going to be able to do against the Seahawks this week, especially without Cooper Kupp, because the Seahawks have some really good DBs, and Tyreek Woolen, he can lock up anybody. And now your wide receiver one's probably Van Jefferson going into this with Higbee at the tight end slot.
You know, what's interesting, when I was looking at this matchup, I looked pretty closely at this because I had considered Seattle for survivor. I have a couple concerns about this game. Seattle's offensive line grades out real poorly. And not that the Rams front outside of Aaron Donald, but anytime you have a team with a questionable offensive line, it makes it tough to be excited about laying points. I also think the Seahawks have some guys banged up in the secondary, including their first-round pick Witherspoon, who it doesn't look like he's playing. So as big of a talent advantage as the Seahawks have, skill positions, I'm not a big fan of the line of scrimmage kind of being a 50-50 coin flip. I do think the Seahawks have a slight advantage on the line, and obviously their skill players are way better. Being a division game week one, I'm probably avoiding this game. But I do think I won't be surprised at all if the Seahawks receivers just go bananas.
Yeah, and Devin Witherspoon is that rookie cornerback. He is practicing. He could play, but hey, one of the starting corners is going to be OU guy Trey Brown over there. So he's been in some big games. So I kind of like Trey Brown a little bit, but no, I agree with that. I think the one interesting thing from that game that you're going to want to watch is Kenneth Walker is going to get a lot of run in that. But let's see how Charbonnet does, see if he gets much time, because this first week is going to be really interesting because we've done all the projections. We've really liked guys, and we're trying to predict the future here, and you just got to kind of see what happens. But all right, another game that we're going to look at is Dolphins and Chargers. And right now, Tua is healthy. We have some questionable, maybe with Jalen Waddle. I think he's been practicing. But what are you guys' thoughts on that game?
Sure. I think that's a real interesting game from a couple perspectives. From a daily fantasy perspective, the Dolphins' backfield is basically empty right now. So to me, Mostert is a great play, and no one's going to play him. No one will use Raheem Mostert, okay? Because, you think Dolphins, Chargers, you just think shootout. I don't know if anybody else is going to get a carry in the game. So I'm very interested in that. I'm also very interested in the Dolphins for the simple fact that a system that we use that's been very good to us is betting against teams whose quarterback doesn't play in the preseason. Herbert didn't play at all this preseason. I'm not saying that, he's going to be super rusty and not play, but if Joe Burrow and the Bengals can turn it over 5 times last year against Pittsburgh after Joe didn't play at all in the preseason, they're facing a high potent offense. Why can't Miami go into that stadium where there's no home field advantage?
Yeah, and that's one thing Z talked about too. He was doing a little research on those quarterbacks that don't play a lot, and you mentioned one there with Herbert, but another one is Joe Burrow with the Bengals. He's been banged up all week, and I mean, Michael, what do you kind of see in that Bengals game this week? You got Joe Burrow, and coming back, is Jamar Chase a guy that you think is going to have a big game, or do they lean more on the Joe Mixon train?
I think they're going to have to rely on the run game. I think they'll rely on Mixon to kind of do what he does. He's a grinder. I mean, he's a side-to-side guy, going to eventually bust one. He's going to be a good fantasy play for you. I think it's one of those deals where you're always going to play Jamar Chase, but what's he going to do if they're not letting Burrow just air it out and move? If he's getting any pass rush at all, I think they're going to go back to running the ball. I don't think they're going to put him in a situation where he's got to rely on that knee in and out of the pocket.
All right, let's get into some stardom sit-ems for week 1, and got a little bit of a disagreement with some stuff we just heard, and we're going to go to Michael, and a guy that he likes, I think, is going against John's not playing, and also Z's not playing in the preseason.
Yeah, so I'm on the Justin Herbert train for week 1. I think as much as I had thought in the preseason that the Dolphins defense under Vic Fangio is going to be better, what he likes to do with the secondary and setting deep and making the quarterbacks play everything underneath, they still haven't decided who's going to play safety. They've had 2 corners out with injuries this preseason, and Jalen Ramsey won't be back. So I really think the Herbert play week 1, just with the receiving core that he has, the ability to throw the ball underneath to Eckler, I think there's a lot of good options there for him, and I think there's a lot of play in there for him to have a big game moving the ball. Even if they make him dink and dunk underneath, I think there's going to be a shot downfield on a miscommunication several times in that Dolphins defense. And so I think Justin Herbert could be a good play, especially a sneaky play now that we're kind of, back and forth on whether he should play or not. I think it could be a surprise play, or I could be eating my words come Monday morning.
Well, I'm just hoping that you're right, because we have a lot of Herbert, Eckler, we have a lot of, and so those are the guys that we need to perform. So I'm with Michael just for the fact that we need those guys for our underdog drafts and our weekly winners there.
We need Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, I told somebody earlier today, I'm just praying, dear God, please, can I just see it first play of the game for the Lions? Let me just see a wheel route out of the backfield and Gibbs for 65, please. Oh, God, I'll be running up and down my street like you can't believe.
So how are they going to – I mean, the reports have been out this week. They're going to use Gibbs and everything. And, it could be a deep threat. And, Jameson Williams is going to be out for a little bit. But how are they going to use Gibbs? And I think that is – great for us, because they're going to give them carries and they're going to be throwing the ball all over the place is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to be an insane matchup for every team that he plays, right? So you're not going to be able to guard him one-on-one with a linebacker. He can hit you with any of these choice routes or probably just run right by him. I'm guessing he's too physical for a safety, and probably a little bit too fast, but he's just such a unique. We haven't really seen anybody for a long time. Even McCaffrey is as proficient as he is out of the backfield. He's just more like underneath swing routes and, choice routes and stuff like that. So I'll be really anxious to see if they're going to swing Gibbs the ball, let him go one-on-one with the D-back. If they're going to give him some free releases up the sideline. I'm so excited to watch this game tomorrow for so many reasons.
And they've been real open about sharing like what they're going to do with them. Like, it hasn't been like, well, we've got them in the backfield and we're going to do this. It's like, hey, we're spreading them out wide. We're finding ways to get him the ball. And I think they're going to try to do it.
Yeah, let's hope that's not a decoy. Like, hey, we're going to use them all over. We're going to throw it deep, and they're just going to send him out there as like a decoy. And not give him the ball, but I don't think there's any way they don't give him the ball. He's just such an explosive playmaker.
Hey, we've got shares in Sam Laporta.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah. Let's stick with that game. A couple other players I'll be interested to see. I want to see if Rashi Rice or what's his name? God, I'm drawing a blank here.
Kadarius
The
Toney, Justin
Kadarius Toney.
Ross, Sky
the
Moore.
Clemson kid that didn't play last year. Oh my God, we're drafting him at the back.
Justin Ross.
Dustin Ross. Yeah. I'm anxious to see if they get on the field and what they do or what they look like. I mean, they're both just physical freaks, and this team is so thin at receiver and playmaker now, especially if Kelsey's down. I'm anxious to see that.
Yeah, well, Kadarius Toney, he doesn't have an injury report for this week, so I mean, he's a guy that they're saying is a full go. So I think they're going to spread it out and throw it around, and that game's going to be very interesting to watch just to see how everybody on both sides of the ball goes about it, because who's Mahomes' go-to guy, because that's going to make a huge difference in some fantasy teams, and we have shares of a lot of Chiefs receivers, so there's a lot of ways to hit there for us.
Yeah.
We also got a lot of Jerick McKinnon. Don't forget, Mahomes trusts him.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did take and I did a couple of underdog drafts. I took Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the last round in a couple of drafts. I'm like, what the heck? If he happens to ever shine through, it's the last year of his contract, but I don't think that's going to go well for me. I think that'll probably be a bust. But, hey, you never know,
I can't wait till I see K Head in first and Sports Connection in second, so I can really get aggravated.
That'll be. We'll have to go on our Discord for that if that's the case. You're gonna hear. Actually, you don't even need to go on Discord. You can just pop out your outside, and you'll be hearing me screaming from Oklahoma. All right, let's look at some other games from Week 1. And John, what about that Vikings-Bucks game? You got Baker Mayfield versus Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, so that's a real interesting one. Baker Mayfield is the worst quarterback in the league against the blitz. And unless you live under a rock, Brian Flores is a new defensive coordinator for Minnesota. And he only has one play call in his arsenal, and it's all blitz, everyone. So I'm really anxious to see what Mayfield does. They got, their big left tackle, Tristan. He's healthy, and that should help. But they're missing their center. The thing that interests me really about this game is, just a couple of years ago, Tampa had one of the dairies in football. And, they got Dean, Carlton, Winfield. They got another safety. I can't think of his name right now. But they've got a lot of names in the back half of that defense. Minnesota really struggles to beat anybody by a touchdown. I can tell you that we will be on Tampa Bay in our circuit contest. They will be one of our 5 picks.
Yeah, it pains me to watch Baker Mayfield struggle because as an OU fan, you remember all the games where he was just willing the Sooners to victory. And, I mean, I still have flashbacks of OU losing the Rose Bowl to Georgia after having the lead and blowing that game. But, man, Baker Mayfield was he's got a statue outside the stadium, but so it's kind of rough to watch him. But hopefully in Tampa Bay, he had a good end of the year last year with the Rams, but hopefully in Tampa he can do something. And Rashid White, that's a guy that it'll be interesting to see, kind of what his role is with the Bucs, because there doesn't seem to be a lot behind him. But, I mean, it's kind of like Bijan Robinson. He can't carry the ball 500 times. So they have to give the ball to other people, but hopefully he can do some damage. And, I mean, he's a really good pass catcher, so hopefully Mayfield can hit him on some of those.
Yeah, so he was one of my stardoms of the week against Minnesota's defense, the things that I think, is going to have the ability to do. And I think what you said, Baker Mayfield has struggled. I think they're going to look to get the ball to the guy in the backfield, do some things like that. So I think White's one of my stardoms of the week for running back this week.
Yeah, and Michael, you were talking earlier, there's, not in the daily fantasy stuff, but in ESPN Yahoo leagues, defenses are a category, and people really like to stream defenses, just pick them up, drop them for good matchups. So who are some of the defenses you like for this week?
So this week I have 2, and I think we talked about it playing a lot in ESPN, but I think in your, underdogs weekly stuff, I think this will play too, because you look at the Ravens against the Texans. The Texans are having O-line issues. They have a lot of that up. They thought they did. They spent a lot of money this offseason on O-linemen. But then today, after him practicing yesterday, Titus Howard went on the IR. So they're going to try to find a tackle starting today, really. So I think playing the Ravens against the Texans, and with the Texans having Stroud as a rookie quarterback trying to find his way in that first game, I think there's going to be an ability there to make a pretty good play with the Ravens defense. And then my other one, we've talked about them today too, is the Commanders defense. I mean, they're playing Arizona. Josh Dobbs is going to be the starter. He can't say enough about how bad he's been in his career. So I think playing the Commanders defense is another big for this week. So the two picks for defense would be the Ravens defense and Commanders defense. And some of that is, like you said, most people have one, maybe two defenses. Ravens are up there. Commanders are kind of in that middle tier-ish. So, I think if you're able to go pick one of those up, or you're having a draft today, the night before the season starts, those would be two good defenses to go get with good matchups week one.
Okay, so you guys answer me this. The Cardinals put Kyler Murray as their captain, and they seem to be tanking for possibly the number one overall pick in Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams' dad's come out today and say, hey, he can stay in college for another year if he needs to, because with NIL, those guys are making bukus of money. So what's the Cardinals' plan here? Like, are they just going to wait and trade Kyler Murray at the end of the year? Are they not going to play him all year? I mean, what are the Cardinals doing?
So I saw something where the Cardinals could potentially have the top two picks. Is that right? Is there a trade where they have somebody else's first pick?
I don't know. I'd have to look at that.
Yeah, I don't know how they, but what's their plan? It's evident their plan is to tank, but quite frankly, there's a lot of guys at the top of that draft. I mean, the Cardinals aren't fixing their issues with one player. They addressed their offensive line with a big right tackle from Ohio State. Okay, but if I get that first pick, I'm taking a haul for that thing, man. I need to move back one, maybe two picks. Look at what you can get in Drake May, Travis Hunter. I mean, there's so much talent in this draft. They could fix themselves real quick if they play their cards right.
So I did a quick Google search. They have the Texans first round pick this upcoming draft. So they're going to have two first round picks. And yeah, two very high picks. Texans traded up this year to get Will Anderson. So Texans traded up from 12 to the Cardinals spot 3 to select pass rusher Will Anderson. So yeah, that's a bold strategy, but the NIL it changes stuff, because these guys, I mean, Arch Manning at Texas is making I don't know how much, millions of dollars to be the third string quarterback. That, the saying was always backup quarterback in the NFL is the greatest job on earth. It might be the number 3 quarterback at Texas, because you're making a lot of money, and you don't have to do anything. I mean, did he get in this week towards the end of the game or no? I mean, he's just stealing money.
I don't think he played. I would have to look at that again, but I don't think he played.
Yeah, so I don't know. John, who are some of the teams that you really like this year in the NFL that are maybe a little bit under the radar? I saw a deal today, and I want to get your thoughts on it, but the Patriots. I saw the Patriots as possibly being a Super Bowl contender, with the Eagles and a bunch of – but, I mean, I know they have a pretty good defense. Michael loves their defense, but Is that offense going to be good enough to play?
Was that article dated like 2012?
No. It's actually Barstool was who I saw it from. So they had
Well,
six.
they
They had six
they, pro-
Super Bowl
they,
contenders. Patriots number
they
2.
produced poison. They produced poison. If I put a wig on and gave myself some implants, and danced around in a skirt, I'd get 12 trillion views too, and I could say the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl. So, I mean that's Barstool for you. Or if I,
To his credit,
take
they're
my
number
shirt off
2.
and
To his credit, they're number
take my
2.
shirt
They
off
weren't
and
1.
wear some like really small goggles like this and scream and yell and holler as loud as I can with a belly shirt or something. I'd get clicks too. But I mean, they're going to finish last in the division. It's a really tough division. I'll tell you what I did. I made a round robin with some division winners. Not for baby peanuts, but for beer money. We used the Dolphins, the Saints, the Cleveland Browns, obviously the Dallas Cowboys. That's my Super Bowl pick, and that was it. We went with those 4. I really think the AFC South is open. I'm not sold on Jacksonville. They can't stop a bloody nose. I mean, their defense is going to be atrocious. If you're looking to fire on them, I really caution you. I mean God, they were down 4 scores to the Chargers in that playoff game. No tape on Richardson. All he needs to do is break a couple big runs. The Colts are going to have an advantage on the defensive line. Their defensive line's better than the Jags' offensive line, featuring DeForest Buckner. The other game I think is interesting. The whole world, you can't find the San Francisco bet with a search warrant. Okay. You know what happens with trendy underdogs. You're usually ripping the ticket up and throwing it in the garbage can. So that's another game I'm really interested in. We own a ton of George Pickens, so I'm really, really excited for the Steelers this year. I just have this really bad feeling that game could get ugly.
Yeah, and going back to the Saints, that division is just so bad that, I mean, the Saints are going to be without Kamara for a few weeks, but, bringing Derek Carr, Chris Olave's in there, and I just think that the Saints, I don't see how they just don't win that division. I know their defense isn't great, but, man, offensively, they should be really good, and I think the Saints are like super close to a lock to make the playoffs, and they're not very good.
Yeah, I think that division stinks. They're going to be much improved. So we'll see.
Yeah. Michael, any surprise teams you like for this year?
So, like you said, I'm all on board with the Patriots defense, but I did hammer the over 7.5 wins. So,
yeah,
surprise.
Who's your defensive player of the year candidate that you have?
Defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And could be Keon White if he gets enough snaps. He is down second on the depth chart, but they're going to rotate D linemen in. But that dude's massive. And when he plays, at Georgia Tech, he was a standout player. And I think he's going to be, you put him on that defense, and then you add Christian Gonzalez to the outside at corner for the Patriots. Bill O'Brien on the offensive end, making Mac Jones. Could be a Pro Bowler. Who knows?
Do we even care about Pro Bowlers anymore? Is that even a thing? Don't they play like a?
Well, I think he made it. Did Mac Jones make it? Was it last year or the year before with only throwing a minimal amount of passes?
Yeah, because nobody wants to play in that game. Nobody wants to do anything with hey, let's go have a skills competition at the end of the year. Like, who wants to go play in that?
He was the 14th best in the AFC 2 years ago and made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna wrap it up here, but my one call for the week. And I don't feel as good about this now that JSN is back for the Hawks, but I was going to go put my life savings on Jake Bobo to score a touchdown this week for the Hawks. And then when they win, I'm going to buy me a Bobo shirt, and I'm going to send it to Z so he can wear it around, since that's his nickname. But yeah, Jake Bobo scoring a touchdown for the Hawks. Guy runs a 5 flat 40.
Oh my God,
And
he's
making
terrible.
plays. So, well,
All
guys,
right, guys, great call. Go Jahmyr Gibbs.
yeah, we're all in on. If Jahmyr Gibbs has a big week, you're going to see us partying next week. We might have party hats on something next week. But go follow us on the Discord. We're on there. We're posting picks. John's posting all his picks. We're giving live updates. I mean, as soon as the inactives and the officially questionable guys come out, we're putting it on there. So all of that is right on our Discord. So go follow us on the Discord. We're going to go live on there some. And just go follow, make your bets, and please be responsible when you do bet. But, guys, thanks for joining us. John, Michael, and Z, who joined us earlier in the show. You all have a good week 1 of the NFL. That's it from the Sports Vault. See ya.
Peace.